My legs shook as I stumbled through the thick trees. The sun was setting, and I could barely see the trail anymore. My chest burned with each breath, and my heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. "Keep up if you can," Victoria's voice echoed from somewhere ahead. Then silence. Complete, terrifying silence. I called out her name, but only my own voice came back to me. The woods seemed to swallow my words. My daughter-in-law had vanished, leaving me alone in this maze of trees and shadows. I pressed my hand against a rough tree trunk, trying to steady myself. My ankle throbbed from where I'd twisted it on a root an hour ago. Victoria had barely glanced back when I fell. The temperature was dropping fast. I could feel the cold creeping through my jacket. My water bottle was empty, and I had no food left. Victoria had the backpack with all our supplies. I sank down onto a fallen log, my whole body trembling. This wasn't an accident. Victoria had planned this. She'd invited me on this hiking trip, led me deep into these woods, and now she'd left me here to die. A bright light cut through the darkness. I squinted, shielding my eyes with my shaking hand. Heavy footsteps crunched on the dried leaves, getting closer. "Ma'am, are you okay?" A deep voice called out. I tried to answer, but only a whisper came out. A tall man appeared in the beam of his flashlight. He wore a hunting vest and carried a rifle over his shoulder. His face looked kind, worried. "Oh my God," he said, kneeling beside me. "How long have you been out here?" "Hours," I managed to say. "My daughter-in-law, she left me." The hunter unscrewed his water bottle and pressed it to my lips. The cool water felt like heaven. He wrapped his warm jacket around my shoulders. "I'm Tanner," he said. "We need to get you out of here. Can you walk?" I shook my head. My legs felt like jelly. Without another word, Tanner scooped me up in his strong arms. I felt like a child, helpless and scared. As he carried me through the woods toward his truck, I kept thinking about Victoria's cold eyes when she'd looked back at me one last time before disappearing. I woke up on a soft couch in front of a crackling fireplace. Animal heads hung on the wooden walls, and hunting gear filled every corner. The smell of coffee drifted from somewhere nearby. "You're awake?" Tanner said, walking in with a steaming mug. "How are you feeling?" My body ached all over, but I was alive. "Better," I said, sitting up slowly. "Thank you for saving me." Tanner handed me the coffee. "What were you doing out there alone? That trail gets dangerous after dark." "I wasn't alone," I said, my voice bitter. "My daughter-in-law brought me hiking. She said it would be good for my health. Then she just left me there." Tanner's eyebrows shot up. "Left you? On purpose?" I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. "She's been wanting me gone for years. She wants my house, my late husband's house. I think she finally decided to do something about it." "That's attempted murder," Tanner said quietly. The words hung in the air like smoke. Attempted murder. Victoria had tried to kill me, and if Tanner hadn't found me, she would have succeeded. But now I had a witness, someone who'd seen me abandoned and alone. I returned home 3 days later, still sore but determined. As I walked up my driveway, I heard Victoria's voice coming from my neighbor's yard. I crept closer, staying hidden behind the fence. "It was so scary," Victoria was saying to Mrs. Patterson. "Marion just wandered off the trail. One minute she was behind me, the next she was gone." My blood boiled. I pressed my ear against the fence. "I searched everywhere," Victoria continued. "I called her name until my voice was hoarse. I even got the park rangers involved. Thank goodness that hunter found her. She must have gotten confused and lost her way." Mrs. Patterson made sympathetic noises. "Oh, that poor dear. Getting older is so hard. Maybe she shouldn't be living alone anymore." "That's exactly what I told my husband," Victoria said. "She needs proper care now. Professional help." I backed away from the fence, my hands shaking with rage. Victoria was painting me as a confused old woman who couldn't take care of herself. She was building her story, making everyone believe I was losing my mind. But I knew the truth, and now I had to prove it. My name is Marion Cross. I'm 68 years old, and I've lived in this house for 42 years. My late husband built it with his own hands, brick by brick, board by board. Every room holds memories of our life together. I was a school teacher for 35 years. I taught 4th grade, and I loved watching those young minds grow and learn. I may be getting older, but my brain is still sharp. Sharp enough to see what Victoria is trying to do. My son married Victoria 5 years ago. From the first day she walked into this house, I saw how her eyes moved across everything. She examined my grandmother's china, my husband's antique desk, the hardwood floors he'd refinished by hand. "This place has so much potential," she'd said, running her finger along the mantelpiece. "With a few changes, it could be really modern." Changes. That's what she called destroying 40 years of memories. Victoria works as a real estate agent. She knows what my house is worth in this neighborhood. She knows that with my husband's pension and my teacher's retirement, I'm comfortable. But comfortable isn't enough for her. She wants it all, and she was willing to kill me to get it. My son came to visit the next evening. His face looked tired, worried. Victoria had filled his head with stories about my confusion and memory problems. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, sitting across from me at my kitchen table. The same table where I'd helped him with his homework 20 years ago. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, pouring him some tea. "Victoria told me what happened on your hiking trip. She's really worried about you." He reached across and took my hand. "She said you got disoriented, wandered off the trail. She searched for hours." I looked into my son's eyes and saw that he truly believed his wife's lies. "Is that what she told you?" "Mom, maybe it's time to consider some help. There are nice assisted living places where you'd be safe, where people could look after you." My heart cracked, not because of his words, but because I could see Victoria's influence poisoning his thoughts. My own son, the boy I'd raised and loved and sacrificed for, was helping his wife steal my home. "I'm fine here," I said quietly. But inside, I was already planning my next move. That night, I started a journal. I wrote down everything I could remember about the hiking trip. Every detail, every word Victoria had said. I noted the time she'd invited me, how she'd insisted we take the difficult trail, how she'd packed only enough water for herself. I also started recording our conversations. I had an old cassette recorder that my husband used for his work meetings. I tested it, making sure the sound was clear. Then I placed it in my living room, hidden behind some books. If Victoria was going to lie about me, I needed proof of her real intentions. The next morning, I drove to the office supply store and bought a small notebook. I would document everything from now on. Dates, times, witnesses. If anyone tried to say I was confused or losing my memory, I'd show them how clearly I could think. I wrote my first entry that evening. Victoria has begun her campaign to make me look incompetent. She's told the neighbors I got lost and confused on our hike. She's convinced my son that I need professional care. But I know what really happened in those woods, and I'm going to prove it. The pen felt steady in my hand. My handwriting was neat and clear. Let anyone try to say I was losing my mind. The phone rang while I was making breakfast. My lawyer's name appeared on the caller ID. "Hello, Damon," I said. "Marion, I need to ask you something," Damon said. His voice sounded concerned. "I had an unusual call yesterday. Your daughter-in-law was asking questions about your will and estate planning." I nearly dropped my coffee mug. "What kind of questions?" "She wanted to know about the process, if something happened to you. How long probate takes, whether there are any restrictions on selling property. She said she was asking for your son, but..." Damon paused. It struck me as odd. "Has something happened to your health?" "No, I'm perfectly fine," I said, "but Victoria has been planting seeds, making people think I'm declining mentally." "Marion, I think you need to be very careful. Someone doesn't ask those kinds of questions unless they're planning ahead." After I hung up, I sat staring at the phone. Victoria wasn't just trying to get rid of me. She was already planning how to cash in after I was gone. The hiking trip wasn't her first attempt. It was just the beginning. I picked up my journal and wrote, "Victoria has contacted my lawyer about my estate. She's not waiting for me to die naturally anymore." I drove back to the woods where Tanner had found me. His cabin sat in a clearing about a mile from the main road. Smoke drifted from his chimney, and his truck was parked outside. I knocked on his door, and he answered with a surprised smile. "Mrs. Cross, how are you feeling?" "Much better, thanks to you," I said. "Tanner, I need to ask you a favor. Could you write down what you saw that night? Just a simple statement about finding me alone?" His face grew serious. "Of course. Come in." Tanner made coffee while I explained about Victoria's lies. He listened without interrupting, his jaw getting tighter with each detail. "That's evil," he said finally, leaving an elderly woman to die in the woods and then lying about it. He wrote out a clear statement. I found Mrs. Marion Cross alone and abandoned on the forest trail at approximately 8:30 p.m. She was exhausted, dehydrated, and scared. There was no one searching for her in the area. She told me her daughter-in-law had left her there. Tanner signed and dated the paper. If you need me to testify or anything, just call. I folded the statement carefully and put it in my purse. One piece of evidence down. Many more to go. Sunday dinner at my house had been a tradition for years. Victoria always came with a fake smile, complimenting my cooking, while her eyes calculated the value of everything around her. This Sunday, I decided to test her. I had the most interesting experience last week, I said casually, passing the roast to my son. A lovely hunter rescued me from the woods. Such a kind man. Victoria's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Her smile froze. A hunter? Yes, Tanner was his name. He found me all alone on the trail. Can you imagine? He said there was nobody searching for me in that area. Isn't that strange? My son looked confused. But Victoria said she was looking everywhere for you. Oh, I'm sure it was just a big forest, Victoria said quickly, but her voice was tight. Easy to miss someone in all those trees. I smiled sweetly. Tanner seemed very observant, the type who notices details. He even wrote down everything he saw that night. Victoria's face went pale. She knew I had a witness now, someone who could contradict her story. The fork trembled slightly in her hand. For the first time since this began, I felt a spark of satisfaction. I spent my savings on a small security camera. The young man at the electronics store helped me set it up near my front door, hidden behind some decorative plants. It would record anyone who came onto my property. Within a week, I caught Victoria red-handed. She came on a Tuesday morning when she thought I was at my doctor's appointment, but I'd rescheduled and was watching from my bedroom window. Victoria walked around my house slowly, peering into windows, trying door handles. The camera recorded everything. Victoria checking if doors were locked, looking under my spare key rock, even trying to peer into my garage windows. She spent 20 minutes examining my property like she was already planning renovations. When she thought no one was watching, her sweet mask slipped away. Her face was cold, calculating. She looked at my house the way a predator looks at prey. I downloaded the video file and made copies. Victoria thought she was being clever, but she was actually building my case for me. Every suspicious action, every lie, every attempt to make me look incompetent was just more evidence. I labeled the file, Victoria Snooping, March 15th, and added it to my growing collection. We really think you should see someone, my son said, driving me to Dr. Williams's office, just to make sure everything is okay upstairs. Victoria had convinced him I needed memory testing. She wanted a doctor to officially declare me mentally incompetent. It would make everything easier for her later. But Victoria had made one mistake. She didn't know Dr. Williams had been my physician for 15 years. He knew me well. Marion, Dr. Williams said after an hour of tests, your memory is excellent. Your cognitive function is completely normal for your age. Better than normal, actually. My son looked shocked. But Victoria said she's been forgetting things, getting confused. I can't speak to what others have observed, Dr. Williams said diplomatically, but medically, your mother is sharp as a tack. In the car afterward, my son was quiet. I could see doubt creeping into his mind for the first time. Mom, he said finally, Victoria was so sure you were having problems. Maybe Victoria was mistaken, I said gently. Or maybe Victoria wanted the doctor to find problems that aren't really there. He didn't answer, but I saw his hands tighten on the steering wheel. I was dusting in the hallway when I heard Victoria on the phone in my living room. She thought I was outside gardening, but I'd come back inside for my gloves. Once she's gone, the house is ours, Victoria was saying. I've already talked to 3 contractors. We can gut the whole interior, make it modern, open concept, granite counters, the works. My heart pounded as I crept closer to listen. No, she won't last much longer, Victoria continued. All that hiking wore her out. And if that doesn't work, well, accidents happen to elderly people all the time, especially ones who are getting forgetful and confused. I pressed my hand against the wall to steady myself. Victoria was planning more than just waiting for me to die naturally. She was planning to help it along. "Trust me," she said with a laugh that chilled my blood. "By Christmas, we'll be remodeling. Start looking at those kitchen designs I showed you." I slipped back outside, my whole body trembling, but tucked in my cardigan pocket was my small recorder. I'd captured every word. Victoria had just confessed to planning my murder, and she didn't even know it. I tried talking to my son that evening, choosing my words carefully. I couldn't just accuse his wife outright. He'd think I was paranoid or jealous. "Honey, do you ever worry that Victoria might be more interested in this house than in me?" I asked as we sat on my porch. He sighed. "Mom, I know you two don't always get along, but Victoria cares about you. She's the one who suggested the hiking trip to help your health." "To help my health?" I repeated. "By abandoning me in the woods?" "She didn't abandon you. You got confused and wandered off." I could see there was no point pushing further. Victoria had done her work well. My son was completely under her spell, believing every lie she'd fed him. "She just wants what's best for our family," he said, "including you." I nodded and smiled, but inside I felt sick. My own child couldn't see that his wife was a killer. He was so blinded by love that he was helping her plan my destruction. That night, I made a decision. If I couldn't make my son see the truth, I'd have to protect myself another way. Damon's law office smelled like old books and coffee. I sat across from his mahogany desk, feeling like I was planning for war. "I want to change my will," I said. "I want to set up a trust that protects my house." Damon adjusted his glasses. "What kind of protection are you thinking about?" "I want to make sure that if something happens to me, Victoria and my son can't sell the house or change it. I want it to go to charity instead." "That's a big change, Marion. Are you sure?" I pulled out my journal and showed him some of my notes. "Victoria has been asking you about my estate. She's been telling people I'm mentally incompetent. She left me to die in the woods, and now she's planning something worse." Damon's face grew grave as he read my evidence. "This is very serious. Have you considered going to the police?" "Not yet, but I want to make sure that even if she succeeds in hurting me, she won't profit from it." We spent the next 2 hours setting up an ironclad trust. My house would go to the Children's Literacy Foundation I'd supported for years. Victoria would get nothing. "She'll contest it," Damon warned. "Let her try," I said. "I have evidence she tried to kill me. Good luck explaining that to a judge." "I thought we could take another trip," Victoria said, her voice honey-sweet. "Maybe up to the mountains this time. Get some fresh air, see the fall colors." We were sitting in my kitchen, and she was holding a travel brochure. My blood ran cold as I recognized the pattern. Another remote location, another chance to leave me stranded. "That sounds lovely," I said, matching her fake tone, "but I've been feeling a bit under the weather lately." Her eyes flashed with annoyance. "Oh, come on. The exercise would do you good. We could make a whole day of it." "I really don't think I'm up for it," I insisted. "Maybe next time." Victoria's smile slipped for just a second, and I saw the frustrated predator underneath. She wasn't giving up. She was just planning her next move. After she left, I wrote in my journal. "Second murder attempt planned. Victoria suggested mountain trip, remote location again. Declined, claiming illness. She's getting desperate." I also called Tanner and told him what had happened. He promised to keep an eye out for Victoria's car near any hiking trails. Victoria was hunting me like an animal, but this time I was ready for her. Tanner appeared at my door the next morning, his face serious. "I saw her car," he said without preamble. "Victoria's car?" "Yesterday afternoon, parked at the mountain trailhead. The same place she wanted to take you. But here's the thing, she wasn't hiking. She just sat in her car for about an hour, then left." My stomach dropped. Victoria had been scouting locations, planning the perfect spot to lose me permanently. "There's something else," Tanner said. "I asked the ranger station about her. Apparently, she's been up there 3 times in the past week, asking questions about the trails, which paths are most remote, how often they're patrolled, whether there's cell phone service." I invited Tanner in for coffee, my hands shaking as I poured. "She's planning something bigger this time." "I think so too, and I think you need to be very careful, maybe even consider staying somewhere else for a while." But this was my home, my sanctuary. I wasn't going to let Victoria scare me away from the life I'd built with my husband. I'm not running, I said firmly, but I am getting prepared. The neighborhood ladies' auxiliary meeting was at Mrs. Patterson's house. All the local gossips would be there, which made it perfect for my purposes. Victoria arrived fashionably late, wearing a concerned expression like a costume. She made a beeline for the group of older women near the refreshment table. "I'm so worried about poor Marion," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "She's been having such memory problems lately. Just yesterday, she forgot we'd made plans to go hiking." I stepped out from behind the coats where I'd been listening. "Actually, Victoria, I remember our conversation perfectly. You wanted to take me to a remote mountain trail, and I declined because I've been feeling unwell." The women turned to look at me, surprised by my clear, confident voice. "In fact," I continued, "I remember everything quite clearly, including our last hiking trip, when you left me alone in the dark woods and told everyone I'd wandered off confused." Victoria's face flushed red. "Marion, you're not remembering correctly. I remember a hunter named Tanner finding me abandoned with no one searching for me," I said calmly. "He even wrote a statement about it." Whispers rippled through the room. For the first time, I saw doubt in the other women's faces. I positioned my hidden camera to record the living room and waited. Sure enough, the next day Victoria let herself in using the spare key she'd copied months ago. She crept through my house like a thief, examining my desk, going through my mail, even checking my bedroom. The camera captured everything. But the most damning footage came when she discovered my locked filing cabinet. Victoria spent 20 minutes trying to pry it open, using a letter opener to work at the lock. Her face was twisted with frustration and greed. She was looking for my will, my insurance papers, anything that would tell her how much she stood to inherit. If anyone still believed Victoria cared about my welfare, this video would change their minds. When she finally gave up on the cabinet, Victoria stood in my living room and looked around with naked hatred. The sweet, concerned daughter-in-law act was gone completely. "Stubborn old witch," she muttered to my empty house. "Why won't you just die?" The camera captured that too. Her confession of wanting me dead, spoken in my own home. I had her now. Damon reviewed all my evidence with increasing amazement. The recordings, the videos, Tanner's witness statement, the documentation of Victoria's lies. By the time he finished, his face was grim. "This is attempted murder, Marion. Multiple attempts. You need to take this to the police." "Not yet," I said. "If I go to the police now, Victoria will just deny everything. She'll say I'm a paranoid old woman making up stories. But if she makes another move could get you killed, or it could give me the final piece of evidence I need. Something so clear that no one can doubt what she's trying to do." Damon leaned back in his chair. "What are you planning?" "I'm going to give Victoria exactly what she wants, a chance to get rid of me once and for all. But this time, I'll be ready." "That's incredibly dangerous." "So is letting her keep trying. Eventually, she might succeed. Better to end this on my terms." Damon reluctantly agreed to prepare everything for a quick legal strike. When Victoria made her next move, we'd be ready with restraining orders, police reports, and enough evidence to bury her. I decided it was time to plant some doubt in my son's mind. I invited him over and played just a small portion of one recording. Victoria talking about renovating the house after I was gone. His face went white as his wife's voice filled the room. "Once she's gone, the house is ours. I've already talked to 3 contractors." "Mom, where did you get this? I recorded it last week." Victoria was on the phone in my living room, planning my death like she was planning a dinner party. My son stared at the recorder like it might bite him. "There has to be an explanation. Maybe she was just planning for the future. You know, making sure we're prepared if anything happens." "Listen to her voice," I said gently. "She's not sad about the possibility of losing me. She's excited about it." He played the recording again, and I watched his face crumble as he really heard his wife's tone. The joy in her voice as she discussed my death. The casual way she talked about gutting my home. "I need some air," he said, stumbling toward the door. For the first time in months, my son was seeing his wife clearly. It was painful, but necessary. Victoria showed up at my door the next day with a bouquet of flowers and her brightest fake smile. She had no idea that I was recording everything. I brought you some flowers, she said, stepping into my living room uninvited. I thought they might cheer you up. How thoughtful, I said, setting up the flowers while my hidden recorder captured every word. You know, Marian, I've been thinking about that hiking trip. I feel terrible about what happened. Oh. Which part do you feel terrible about? Victoria's smile flickered. Well, about you getting lost, of course. It must have been so scary for you. It was scary being abandoned, I said quietly. Especially when you knew I was injured and couldn't keep up. I didn't abandon you. Victoria's voice rose, then she caught herself. I mean, you wandered off when I wasn't looking. The hunter who found me said there was no one searching in that area. Victoria's mask began to slip. Hunters don't know everything. I was looking everywhere for you. Were you? Or were you already planning how to redecorate my house? Her face went pale. I don't know what you mean. But I could see the panic in her eyes. She knew I knew. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. Victoria stormed into my house without knocking, her face twisted with rage. You poisoned him against me, she screamed. My own husband won't even look at me thanks to your lies. I stayed calm, knowing my camera was recording everything. I didn't tell him any lies, Victoria. I told him the truth. The truth? You're a bitter old woman who can't stand to see me happy. The truth is that you tried to murder me in those woods. The truth is that you've been planning my death so you can steal my house. Victoria's eyes blazed with fury. This house should be mine. I'm young. I could actually enjoy it. You're just rotting away here like a ghost. So you decided to help me along? You know what? Victoria stepped closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. Yes, I left you in those woods hoping you'd die. I wish that stupid hunter had never found you. And I'll keep trying until I succeed, because this house will be mine. I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder. I don't think so, Victoria. Her confident expression faltered as I handed her the folder. Inside were copies of all my evidence. The recordings, the videos, Tanner's statement, everything. Victoria's face drained of all color as she flipped through the pages. You can't prove any of this, Victoria said, but her voice was shaking. Actually, I can. Damon has already filed for a restraining order based on this evidence. The police will receive copies tomorrow morning. Victoria's hands trembled as she continued reading. Audio transcripts of her planning my death. Video stills of her breaking into my house. Medical records proving I wasn't mentally incompetent. And just so you know, I continued calmly, my will has been changed. This house will never be yours. It's going to the Children's Literacy Foundation. You can't do that. I already did. Even if you succeeded in killing me, you'd get nothing. All those plans, all that plotting, all for nothing. Victoria sank into my armchair, the folder scattered at her feet. Her perfect mask had completely shattered, revealing the desperate, greedy woman underneath. The neighbors are starting to whisper about you, I said. Mrs. Patterson asked me yesterday if I thought you were quite right in the head. Word travels fast in a small neighborhood. My son appeared in the doorway, his face haggard. He'd heard everything from the porch. Pack your bags, he told his wife quietly. I'll be staying at a hotel until you're gone. Victoria looked between us, realizing she'd lost everything. 3 weeks later, I sat on my front porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunset paint my garden golden. The restraining order had been approved. Victoria was forbidden from coming near me or my property. My son had filed for divorce. The police had opened an investigation based on my evidence. Victoria's real estate license was under review, and the whole neighborhood knew what she'd tried to do. Tanner stopped by occasionally to check on me. You did it, he said, joining me on the porch that evening. You beat her at her own game. I didn't want to beat anyone, I said. I just wanted to live in peace in my own home. The house felt different now. Lighter somehow, as if Victoria's poisonous presence had finally been scrubbed away. Every room held my memories again instead of her greedy plans. My journal sat beside me on the porch table. I'd made my final entry that morning. Victoria's plan has failed completely. The house is safe, protected by an ironclad trust. I am safe, surrounded by people who actually care about me. Justice didn't require cruelty. It only required patience, truth, and evidence. When Victoria had come to claim my house, I'd been waiting with something she never expected. The complete, documented truth. And truth, I'd learned, was the most powerful weapon of all.